Alrighty, YouTube, Niner Empire, what is going down? Welcome back to another video. So I wanted to come on here and kind of give my 2 cents on if I think the 49ers will trade Brandon Aiyuk. Obviously, I made a video yesterday about Diana Rossini mentioning that she didn't expect the 49ers to trade Brandon Aiyuk before his April 1st roster bonus. Again, if they don't trade him before April 1st, he is due that $22.85 million roster bonus, which is pretty significant. And I do think if the 49ers are going to trade him, I think they're going to want that trade to happen before April 1st. So all in all, do I think Brandon Aiyuk will be traded this offseason? I think it comes down to a couple different things. I think it's going to come down to if the 49ers feel as if the compensation is good enough. And secondly, I think it's going to be, obviously, if there is a team out there that is willing to take on this massive contract of Brandon Aiyuk's coming off of this pretty significant ACL tear. I seen a tweet, I think it was from our SF49ers on Twitter that said that Stefon Diggs is ready to be, he's ready to play and likely will play week 1 of next year. Obviously, Diggs just signed that 3-year deal with the New England Patriots. But Stefon Diggs tore his ACL only 9 days after Brandon Aiyuk did. And he's going to be ready to play by week 1 from the looks of it. Everything that I'm seeing and hearing about Brandon Aiyuk's return date is well past the first half of the season. So if that doesn't tell you how serious Brandon Aiyuk's knee injury is, I don't know what will. But either way, so again, Jordan Schultz, Fox NFL Insider, made a video about Brock Purdy just a little bit ago about how, he believes and what he's hearing is that Purdy's deal is expected to land in the $50 to $55 million per year range. He also talked about Brandon Aiyuk. And he said today that the 49ers are open to trading Brandon Aiyuk, but many view it as unlikely that anyone will trade for his contract after his ACL injury. So this is the problem that the 49ers are running into. Pre-ACL injury for Brandon Aiyuk, number one, the 49ers asking price was probably a little more than what they're looking for now. And number two, I think the 49ers could have easily traded Brandon Aiyuk. They were about to. They were about to trade him to Pittsburgh. But now with this ACL injury and with him making $30+ million per year, number one, the 49ers are not going to get the compensation that they're probably going to want for Brandon Aiyuk. And who's going to want to take on this contract? So, I mean, these are two major problems that's going into and that's affecting the 49ers dealing Brandon Aiyuk before April 1st. And I don't think he will be traded before April 1st. I think the 49ers, all in all, are going to have a hard time trading him no matter if they give him that $22+ million roster bonus that they're going to have to give him on April 1st. Like, I think post roster bonus money, it's still going to be tough for the 49ers to trade him. He's still going to be making $30+ million per year. And I don't know if teams out there are willing to trade for Brandon Aiyuk until they see him return from this injury and until they see the type of player that he is post recovery and rehab. It's going to be tricky for the Niners to trade him. I personally do not expect the 49ers to trade him. I think they really want to. I do believe that. I think it's known now that the Niners would prefer to deal Brandon Aiyuk and get him off the team. But the problem is there's not a lot of teams out there that are going to be willing to take on the contract. I think if the 49ers want to trade him, it might be following the 2025 season. And that's going to be tough even at that because it's also going to be based off of what he can do when he returns to the field in 2025. Do I think it would be the right move for the 49ers to trade him? I think in the grand scheme of things, I think it looks better for the 49ers to trade him than to keep him. I think his contract, all in all, before he tore his ACL, was a lot of money. And obviously, knowing how he played up until the point where he got hurt, it wasn't good. He actually played really badly. And he did not look like a $30 million receiver or $30+ million per year receiver. And now, obviously, with the ACL injury, like the contract looks awful from what the 49ers gave him. So, I definitely think I think it's better off for the 49ers to trade him. I also don't necessarily think that Aiyuk fits this culture. I don't think he fits like the prototype type of player that you want on this team. He's never really felt like and never really been like seemed like a team first type of guy. It's kind of always been about him. And obviously it really showed during his contract negotiation. So I do think it's better off for the 49ers to trade him. They need to get rid of that contract. It also kind of aligns with what they're doing in terms of being more cost efficient. And I definitely think there's a couple of receivers out there in the NFL draft, that the 49ers could develop into a decent player. They also have Ricky Pearsall, who they spent that first round pick on last year, and they have Jawan Jennings. I'd love to see what Jacob Cowing can do. Tariq Owens, they have on their practice squad. He's Terrell Owens' son, big body type of receiver. And I'm not saying that, Brandon Aiyuk is an easily replaceable player, but the 49ers played without him last year. And obviously, towards the back half of the season, we were able to see, Ricky Pearsall kind of emerge. We were also able to see a massive year from Jawan Jennings. And they also have George Kittle, too. And I think trading Brandon Aiyuk would open up the door for George Kittle to be a little more involved than he has been in recent years. And he had a pretty good season last year. And I felt like he was really involved last year. But again, a lot of that had to do because, Brandon Aiyuk was hurt. Debo wasn't performing like how Debo typically does. So I do think it's better off for the 49ers to trade him, but I doubt it happens. And here's the thing, too. I mean, the 49ers could trade him for, a 5th-round pick just to get rid of that contract, or a 4th-round pick just to get rid of that contract. But if Brandon Aiyuk comes back and is the Brandon Aiyuk that he was pre-ACL injury, that looks like a terrible trade. And I don't think the 49ers are willing to settle with a lower end pick in this upcoming year's draft, because I think they're probably worried about that. I think they know that it would look very bad for them to deal him if he comes back from the injury and plays like pre-Brandon Aiyuk, pre-injury Brandon Aiyuk. So I don't think Brandon Aiyuk gets traded. I think if the 49ers are going to trade him, it's going to be before April 1st. It wouldn't really make a whole lot of sense for the 49ers to pay him this roster bonus and then to deal him after the fact. So I do think if he ends up being traded, it's going to be within the next couple of days. April 1st is 6 days away. So the Niners really have 6 days to figure out, if they're going to be able to make a deal happen. It's going to be very hard to move Brandon Aiyuk. And I think what the 49ers asking price probably is, just kind of reading around and seeing some reports, it's, a late 2nd to an early 3rd-round pick for Aiyuk. There's not a lot of upside value for the 49ers in return if they trade him. But again, based on how the offseason has gone and, how the 49ers are really cutting down and being more cost efficient, I also wouldn't be shocked if they did trade him. Obviously, he was Brock Purdy's number 1 target in 2023. He definitely opens up the passing game a lot more. But the fact of the matter is it doesn't the contract doesn't necessarily align with how they are going about things now. And on top of that, I said this in yesterday's video when I talked about Brandon Aiyuk and the report coming out about him not expected to be traded, but I don't know if Aiyuk ever really moved on from those negotiations and what transpired over last season. I don't think that he truly got over the negotiation period that him and the 49ers had last year. It seemed like after he got paid, he still didn't want to be with the 49ers. He threw that fit in practice about his practice shorts, and just his demeanor and the way he kind of went about himself last year following him getting that contract. It didn't really seem like he wanted to be with the 49ers. And if that's the case, man, move him. Like, get rid of him. I think you get a third-round pick for Brandon Aiyuk and get a team to take on that contract. I think that's a win-win. But again, that could bite them. He could turn in to a better player, following this injury. He could be a worse player. He could go back to exactly how he was. And I think, I don't know, man. Like, to me, I think the 49ers would likely trade him for a third-round pick if they could get it. But I don't think there's a team out there that's going to be willing to give the Niners a third-round pick and take on his massive contract. But we'll see what happens. Again, I mean, based off of how this offseason has gone for the Niners, I wouldn't be shocked if they did trade him. So we'll see what happens. Personally, I don't think he's going to be traded before April 1st, and I have a hard time believing, if that's the case, that he's going to be traded at all. So I would expect the Niners and Brandon Aiyuk, or I would expect Brandon Aiyuk to be on the Niners next year into 2025 and obviously see what he can do whenever he comes back. So we'll see what happens. I don't expect it, but let me know your guys' thoughts in the comments down below. As always, go Niners. I'll see you guys in the next one.